G'day there, trendsetters. Long time no speak. Coming to you now in the week leading up to Shavuot, where we're going to receive the Torah, Matan Torah, at the time of the giving of the Torah. So receiving is technically not the accurate term. And this is actually one of the motifs of this beautiful story and parable of Rabbi Nachman that I want to share with you. So we've been counting the Omer, counting from Pesach to Shavuot. We count 49 days, and this parallels all the midot, the spiritual attributes, or you could say the parts and multiple parts within us that we're trying to refine. And ultimately the part that the midah and the permutation, the Kabbalistic spiritual and psychological energy that we are receiving the Torah, or the Torah has been giving to us, is malchut sheba malchut, the attribute of kingship of kingship. So I'll draw everything together, but let me talk about this parable. And I think it's a beautiful parable that links, it's really an allegory that the giving of the Torah is the wedding between God, Hashem, and the Jewish people. And ultimately also all of humanity, because at that time there was this union of the upper worlds and the lower worlds, and basically a manifestation that we can reveal divinity down here in the physical world, and we can unify the two. Our task is not to run away from the physical world, but to elevate it. We don't drive darkness away with a stick. We light a candle, we light a flame to illuminate it. So let's talk about this parable. It's very short, and that's why it's beautiful. And just little parentheses, I think something that people don't understand when they read and learn Rabbi Nachman is that a lot of his Torah is very concise. And it's very profound. There's a profundity in that conciseness. As Shakespeare, they said brevity is the soul of wit. And I think when people stop reading everything literally, it applies to everything. We stop being literalists, whether we're a fundamentalist or an atheist. We can bring the nuance and we can bring the insight of our own lives, our multiple disciplines, and we can bring our own chidushim, our own novelties to Torah and expand Torah. All of Torah, and all of that was given at Har Sinai. All the Torahs that we will kind of manifest and bring and renew and bring new insights into, this was all given. And the world has also been waiting for these insights. So each one of us needs to be empowered to do that. So let's stop reading everything literally. Let's bring a bit of nuance to it. So this is the story. There was a king, and he was out hunting a deer. He was out pursuing a deer with his ministers. And rain started pouring. And the ministers turned to the king and they said, "It's raining, sire. We have to go back. We can't pursue this deer." And the king turned to the ministers and said, "If you don't want to pursue the deer, go back to the castle. I have to pursue the deer. I'm not giving up." And so the ministers went back. That's the story. And I think that's a beautiful analogy, that sometimes we're pursuing something. We could be pursuing someone close to us, someone dear to us, or something dear to us, whether it's God, whether it's a spiritual growth, whether it's career growth, whether it's intimacy in a relationship. And some rain comes, some adversity comes. We encounter some difficulty. And perhaps even the thing that we are pursuing, or the one we're pursuing, or the one we're trying to draw close to, they're bounding away like a deer. And some parts of us, some ministers inside of us, and even ministers outside of us can say, "Give up. It's too hard. It's raining. Let's go back." We have to find that malchut sheba malchut, the kingship of kingship, that desire to pursue onwards. The inner king, as Robert Bly talked about it in Iron John, that we are steadfastly devoted to catching that deer. We are steadfastly devoted with our self-energy of achieving our goal. And it's very easy, tragically, to be deterred by the rain. And I think society endorses that. And I think, tragically, this leads to the bad outcomes, particularly in intimate relationships, where we give up. We give up because our beloved is running away. Now, why can that happen, that our beloved is running away? Coming down to what I think is the ultimate purpose and the true revelation of God is in an intimate partnership between husband and wife. When we say tzvi, when we say a deer, I'm immediately drawn to Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs. So we're here, chapter 2 and verse 9. Domeh dodi letzvi. My beloved is similar to a deer. And there's a beautiful line in here. Hine ze omed, behold my beloved is standing, acher kod leinu mashkiach min achalonos. That she's behind these walls, these partitions. My beloved is behind these lattices and she's peering through. So sometimes there can be some protectors there due to burdens that my beloved is peering through. They are standing behind these walls. Now, I can't stop there anymore though with this three-dimensional view of our inner psychology. Because over the past few months, and perhaps why I've been posting less, is I've been learning and been bringing in and integrating a lot of new information has come to light. Like in the words of Big Lebowski, new shit has come to light, right? We've got to start integrating this energy. And I think particularly all IFS practitioners, not that I'm an IFS practitioner, I'm just an IFS believer and adherent. We need to integrate this, particularly to our own healing and healing in our intimate relationships and healing around the world, is that we can no longer use the 3D model. 3D model is a lot better than the 1D model, but it's sadly deficient. So the 3D model is this. We have a self energy, we have protectors, and we have burners, exiles. Right? So that's 3. So that's a very narrow, trauma-focused belief in how our inner psychology, inner psyche operates. That we can have attachment injuries, traumas, which are serious survival injuries, which trigger defensive mechanisms to optimize our survival, using a bit of EP there, evolutionary psychology there, to explain that and justify that. Some of these things can be subconscious. We can explain that with the neurobiology of We, that book. I'm forgetting the author off the top of my head, where trauma and extreme situations that trigger hormonal releases of cortisol stress actually suppresses the hippocampus, so we don't integrate this fully into our memory bank. So these things maintain almost a reflexive, almost a knee-jerk response for a survival mechanism. We can understand why evolution and the power of creation did that, because that's going to optimize our gene survival and reproduction. It's better that we don't even have to think about these survival mechanisms, survival reactions. They should be automatic. Sorry, there's big parentheses there. But anyway, that's 3D. That's 3D. When we start exploring a bit of the outer realms and outer reaches of IFS, which is provocative, but nonetheless poignant and pertinent, we've got here the book, The Others Within Us, Internal Family Systems, Porous Minds and Spirit Possession, by none other than Bob Falconer. He is an amazing IFS practitioner. I will try and put some video links down below, but just please search Bob Falconer. You'll find him on YouTube, Falconer. We start to realize we have to live in 5D. The other 2 aspects are legacy burdens, things that come from previous generations, previous lives. And the 5th one is, and I hope you're going to think I'm crazy, but that's okay. It's unattached burdens. These are things that are not within our system. Essentially, it's to talk about Kabbalah. This is some spiritual energies that can permeate us, and that can be positive, like an ibor, but they can also be negative, like a dibuk. But really, we're going to use the language of IFS. Unattached burdens, other people, other practitioners will call them attachments. And these are parts that do not wish us well. Richard Schwartz says all of our parts ultimately want good for us. That is true. But there are parts within us, and they can be within many people, that do not wish us well. And they're from outside our system. They're from Sitra Achra, they're from the other side. And these things can also be the walls and the partitions and the lattices. And the darkness talked about, the blackness talked about in Shir HaShirim, which actually create barriers in our life, create barriers in our connection, whether it's with Hashem or between a husband and wife. And we need to start. It's our task as this generation, the generation leading up to the ultimate redemption of Mashiach, to start with our own private redemption, our Geula Pratit, before we have a Geula Klalit, but the general, total redemption. This is what Tikkun Olam is. Tikkun Olam is not endorsing Hamas firing missiles on innocent people and calling that freedom fighting. That's absurd. Tikkun Olam is Letaken Olam b'Malchut Shakar, to bring the Malchut, that courage to pursue our goal, to pursue what is dear to us, the deer that is sometimes even running away from us, sometimes behind, peering through the lattices, the barriers. We need to access that self-energy within us, the courage, the compassion, the persistence, the playfulness and the perspective and curiosity. And when we can come with that love and compassion, then we can actually create the union that started at Matan Torah and ultimately was brought to fruition at Purim, but will be brought to the ultimate fruition and manifestation with Mashiach coming. But we cannot have the redemption until we have a private redemption. And we're all working on that. Rebbe Nachman has a beautiful, beautiful line here from Likutei Moharan. Likutei Moharan is amazing work. It's very deep. So here I'm on page 9. And Rebbe Nachman says that the union of masculine and feminine is the union of emet ve'emunah, of truth and faith. What we're leading up to here in Shavuot is the emet of the Torah, the truth, the courage to see things for what they are. We've got the 5 books of the Torah that we're going to be getting, and we've got the 5 levels of the soul, and we've got the Hegvaros, there's 5 aspects of discipline that we're going to need to bring to really stay focused on our task, like the king pursuing the deer. And we're going to have to bring that union of emet, ve'emunah, faith, hope. Fundamentally, IFS is about hope. We are hopeful merchants that we can come to these parts that are wounded within us, and the wounded, unattached burdens coming from the Sitra Achra, the darkness, that have been exiled in their own darkness, and bringing them to the realization that everything is God. And we do not drive them away with a stick. We light a match. We bring compassionate self-energy, whether it's our own self-energy or self-energy of a therapist or self-energy of other people, other healers that are out there. And we bring that, and we let these wounded, unattached burdens know that they can go to the light, and that ultimately everything can be unified with the Torah, with emet, the truth of the Torah, and the faith that healing can happen no matter what. So these are some things I kind of want to move the direction of my channel. We're going to have to start talking about some things, and I agree, it's a huge paradigm shift for Bob himself. It shook him up when he started to go from 3D to 5D, but I believe if we're going to go from the level of the 5 levels of the Torah, we have to start the 5 books of the Torah, the 5 levels of our soul, we have to start talking in 5D, with 5 dimensions of our inner psychology. And that's how we're going to get, please God, Mashiach now. So if we can start bringing that compassion to all parts, and also coming to terms with that not all parts wish us well, but we can bring compassion to them nevertheless, and connection, that is going to be Tikkun Olam. So wishing you all a beautiful Shavuot, a beautiful Yom Tov, and look after yourselves, and just bring compassion. And I can't recommend this book enough. The Others Within Us, and watching some Bob, he'll also explain the foundations of IFS almost better than anybody else. So wishing you all the best. Yalla bye.